Yes. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. And it's very interesting video. Holland Marsh. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Oops. Okay. Yeah.
Hello. Hi there. I've got Tom right beside me, so I'll pass him over. I'll pass the phone over to him. Exactly. Here he is.
Pretty good yourself. Yep. Yeah. That's good. I brought in a webcam of my own. Try and get the quality out of it. Yeah, no. Good. Okay, then it's a few minutes. It's dropping in and out. So. Yeah. On the telephone. Okay, then you're enough in trouble. Okay. Yep. Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna just audio. I'm gonna run Audacity in the back. So catch from the webcam. Yeah. All right. Great. Yeah. All right. So, why? It's like I probably am on my phone, so it's sitting on top of The frame ends here.
Could you please let us know, you'll need to put a parking pass, a permit on your car, or you'll get a ticket. So go to the servery, we'll give you Please be aware that this evening's talk is being streamed on YouTube. So you can welcome and thank you for joining us on this, the 60th anniversary of Hurricane Hazel. On that fateful night 60 years ago, Lambton House was a rescue and recovery station. And you are welcome to read our Hurricane Hazel display in this room. And after the speaker finishes, you may tour the building. History rooms upstairs and I'd like to introduce our board members. And Manuel McDowell here is our secretary treasurer. I don't know where Joyce is over here.
YouTube. YouTube for a second.
You know, it's a full house. I just, well, first of all, thank you to Lambton House and Heritage York for all the work that you do. This is a wonderful historic building, truly a treasure for our community. But I just had 60 years, that's a pretty significant anniversary. So I just thought, let's commemorate. As Member of Parliament for Parkdale Hyde Park, I'm pleased to join Heritage York at Lambton House to commemorate the 60th anniversary of Hurricane Hazel. Living so close to our treasured Humber River and enjoying its many recreational, natural, and historic benefits can make us forget the raw power that can be unleashed by nature. 60 years ago, that power caused tremendous damage and the tragic losses. 2,000 left homeless, storage for understanding floodings, and ending cities, and how we would build our homes. Thanks to the dedicated always Atlantic its hurricane this and with a new deal for the conservation and stewardship of the mighty Humber. Thank you for your continued efforts. Marco, thank you.
Okay, I'm now going to ask Madeline McDowell, our membership secretary, to introduce our guest speaker, David.
Thank you. The storm warning issued for a second time by senior meteorologist Fred Turnbull from Lambton Airport Weather Station. He and his staff were highly respected, and having his warning reissued and needed incredible weight all public, in particular this then years later, it's great to introduce a man highly respected in a more modern version of the field. David Phillips He is a fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society and of the Canadian Meteorological and Oceanographic Society. He's written a lot, books, papers, reports, and a couple of bestsellers, including he has received not only one, two honors. He's a member of Canada. Mr. Phillips, they're all yours.
The wind had begun to slacken. Temperature was like it was today, very mild, 16, 17 degrees. Earlier in the day, meteorologists had found Hurricane Hazel to storm. And people thought, oh my gosh, just another wet Friday, another wet weekend. Some went bowling, some went to the movies, others went to bed. No sense at all about what was to happen. And yet worse was yet to come. So today, what I'd like to do is to relive that time, to try to explain to you from a meteorological point of view the significance of what really happened meteorologically during that event. Now, where I'm going to take you is through a little bit. I have to sort of introduce you to a little bit of meteorology. So, storm definitions, the life cycle of what a tropical storm or hurricane is. We're going to look at, because very few hurricanes come into Canada. We have, for example, Newfoundland, one of the stormiest areas of Canada. They only get one hurricane every 12 years, you see, that makes landfall. So they're not really common phenomena here in the Great White North. And so what happens to them? Well, they become post-tropical depressions. Sounds like a psychological ailment coming back from Florida, but they transform themselves, but they still have the force and the power of a tropical system, but they just have a little different personality than hurricane. We're going to look at Hazel, its birth, its track, and of course how it transitioned to one of these post-tropical depressions. What was life like? What was going on in the weather office at Malton? Was there a lot of drama? Was there people screaming and yelling at each other? Or what took place with regards to providing that forecast that Madeline talked about? Fred Turnbull, who was providing information to as many people as he could possibly do. We'll look at the storm rainfall, the runoff, and very little on the impacts. I know that you know most about the impacts, so I'm not going to dwell on that painful area of this particular storm. And then, of course, the lessons learned, and if time permits, a little comment maybe about climate change and hurricanes. And throughout this, I'll throw in a little trivia, because I like to entertain people as much as to inform them. So I hope it's too much trivia, but hey, I can't help it. So let's look at really what we do is classify these tropical storms in our particular basin in the Atlantic area. We call them hurricanes. East of the international date line, they're also called hurricanes over here. In fact, this area gets more hurricanes than the North Atlantic. Over here in the China Sea, they're called typhoons. They're typhoons. In the Bay of Bengal in India, the southern Indian Ocean, they're called severe cyclones. And around Australia, also called severe cyclones. Whatever you call them, doesn't matter. These are the monster storms. The greatest storms on Earth are really in hurricanes. Not in terms of the wind speed. Tornadoes could be much higher. The area and the force, the rain and the winds that they contain, they are really monster storms. The United Nations World Meteorological Organization estimates that there are about 85 tropical storms around the world in an average year, and causing billions of dollars of damage and also lots of deaths. But very interesting, the number of deaths have really gone down. 30 years ago, I would describe to you probably 100,000 people die every year from hurricanes. Now, 20 years ago, it would be down to maybe 20,000. Now, it tends to be more like 1,000. The forecast has gone down. People value life more. And even in some of the areas like Bangladesh and India and Burma, they have set up emergency measures, and there are shelters for people to go. In fact, they know 3 or 4 days in advance of the hurricane is coming, and they're able to provide that information, get people out of harm's way. Now let's look at the North Atlantic. This area here, got to make sure I get that, where off the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico here. Now, so I was faster in the looking out this water from June 1st to the end of November. We'll probably start earlier in May because, hey, the season starts on June 1st, but you can still have hurricanes in May. They could even go into December and even to January. But generally the season is from June 1st to November 30th, with the peak part of the season being around September the 8th to October the 8th. That's the peak activity period. So if I'm looking out there in the ocean, because you know all hurricanes begin as a thunderstorm, just a garden variety thunderstorm out there, and then it kind of grows and stays together, and then there are thousands of thunderstorms out there, but only about 11 make it to tropical storms. Only about 6 make it to hurricanes in the North Atlantic, and maybe 2 have eligibility to the Hall of Fame in terms of a nasty kind of a hurricane. So what they do is they look out there, it looks a little area of thunderstorms that are lasting more than a day. So they draw a little box around, a hot box, and they begin to say, well, just watch that a little bit more. They wouldn't necessarily find some planes in it, but they would just take a look at it. Let's watch it in 6 hours from now or 24 hours. What does it do? So they call it a tropical disturbance. And then they look again, they wait for the next time, and they say, oh my gosh, this area has begun to get organized a little bit. It's beginning to kind of circulate, rotate a little bit. The winds from about there now in excess of 37 kilometers per hour. So we'll call it a tropical depression. You say, keep watching it, monitoring it, and get models focused on it so to see if this thing is going to develop. And then time goes on, maybe two or three days, and all of a sudden the thing has blossomed into a tropical storm. So winds are now, and the winds are the criteria as to whether you grow it from a depression to a tropical storm to eventually a hurricane. The winds get about 62 kilometers per hour. Above that, then it's considered to be a tropical storm, and it's given a name. And so now it inherits this name. That name stays with it, and of course they now monitor growing in strength in terms of the wind. Now let me talk a little bit about naming storms. That's something that this is where my first trivia is. Now, 1950, they would name hurricanes at the forecasting center in Miami after girlfriends or probably mothers-in-law, I think, more than anything. But they could be after a president. There was Hurricane Harry, after Harry Truman. And there was another one, Hurricane Beth, his wife. She was a bigger one than Harry. And so there was a little bit of jealousy going on there in terms of the hurricane. They would sometimes name them after saints' days, or when they developed on a day, or they would sometimes name them after the fact that it sank a ship. So they would sometimes be given the name of the ship that they sank. Often it was just latitude and longitude. Well, this hurricane at 10 degrees north and 15 degrees east and is merging with another system, and there would be 3 or 4 out at a time. People would get all confused about all these latitudes and longitudes changing every minute of the day. So in 1950, they said, all right, let's forget this sort of arbitrary system of naming them. We'll name them after the Greek, after the phonetic alphabet. So Abel, Baker, Charlie were the names given to these systems. Then in 1953, and there's no reason given why, they started naming them after female names. So in that first year of 1953, you had Alice, Barbara, Carol, Dolly, Edna, Florence, Gail, and Hazel. Hazel was a hurricane in 1953. And so then in 1954, they repeated the list, including Hazel. Now, the only one that was changed for no reason, they had the Gale became Gilda. was just fish just died. I don't know, maybe somebody complained. But what I found that was sort of interesting, that was after Carol in 1954, it was a major hurricane, caused 61 deaths in the United States, and was a major in Canada. And here's what she asked. She said, I wish to enter a protest after feet. Everyone knows that men are bigger blows than give a feminine name to such a rambunctious, destructive, all display of elemental fury. Why not name the next one L or unbearable? Nothing more inappropriate. Which name immediately comes up in my mind, a little puffy guy on to flee. Where are these things named anyway? Well, you got that right, didn't you? Trusting you will take appropriate steps to that matter. Well, 25 years later, somebody must have paid attention to her because they decided in 1978 for the season 1979 male, female, so male, female, female, and that was, there were 6 lists, so every 6 years from now, the same list. Now there are, in fact, 21 names chosen. There's no names for Q, U, X, Z. So if your name was Amanda or Zelda or Zach, but in 2005, the very first time they had more than 20 hurricanes. And so, oh, what will we do here? So what they did, they had apparently a footnote and a list of instructions. It's what we'll do the alphabet. So as soon as a Wilma was spent, the next one became Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Omega. And it's the only time where there's ever been more than 21 hurricanes. Now, hurricanes sometimes are retired. It's retired if it's a nasty blow. It kills a lot of people, does a lot of destruction in terms of the buildings and materials and property, and or there's something meteorological significant about it. And the only time that Canada's ever lobbied to have a hurricane retired was Hurricane Juan, because it was it was the strongest hurricane to make landfall in Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, in about 100 years, and took down 100 million trees. So it didn't killed 7 people, but it wasn't from that point. It was neurological significant. It was in fact better. So 53 hurricanes retired. 31 males and 22 females. Let me draw a conclusion. Now, there's only been one hurricane retired twice. In 1954. And there was a hurricane in the Eastern Pacific that was called Hazel. It was retired in 1960. So over storms, we then come to we call a hurricane. And a hurricane, that tropical storm is into a hurricane. In fact, winds exceed 118 miles per hour. And so it retains its name. It is a tropical storm to actually hurricane. Now there are in fact, what we do here is 1, 2, 3. So the category increases. By wind speed. Now, what we're talking about wind speed here, we're talking about surface winds. We're not talking. We're talking about surface winds about a 10-meter pole. And so that wind speed at that point, that's 4 or 5. So it goes from 3, 4, and 5. It's referred as a super hurricane. Or it's the speed down. In terms, the higher you go up, the stronger the winds will be. The storm surge, the wall of the hurricane, and it's driven by pressure. And but about 25% is affected by pressure. But generally, it is the strong winds, the winds that are pushing down on that water and driving all the water. North America is the surge that causes most of the damage. Erosion, the water takes the goes maybe and so it's also depend upon the speed of the storm, the coast, and the seabed. It's very water, and the wall of water can build up quite high and create this monster kind of the also heavy rains. Again, doesn't matter what we're talking about, 2 millimeters, 250, 100, whatever this. And also tornadoes. A different flow. One of the aspects of the don't have hurricanes, have eyes or cores or cars. Out from about maybe 400 kilometers from that or that eye wall. have effect. That's a little bit pretty dangerous and powerful forces. Now, size doesn't mean anything with hurricanes. Hurricane Andrew in very category. A bigger one. The only thing is there's more misery. You more experience more misery over a longer period of time. Storm is wide. It's still raining and rains for a long period of time. Now, how do the okay? So most storms in our planet, they set out come eastward here, many of them, go northeastward. That's an important point I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes. So you need kind of that pre-existing disturbance, kind of get things going yourself. And one of the prime areas is near Africa, in the Cape Verde area. A tropical wave will come. Here's a high pressure area that's circulating like this and driving these storms in the northeast trades as they come across the Atlantic, warming up at the ocean waters, in the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and they're really developing into a nasty kind of storm. You also, of course, need warm moist air. You need the stuff that starts a thunderstorm. We know thunderstorm, so you kind of need that stuff too. The other thing you need is you have to be away from the equator, because Earth spins about 1,600 kilometers per hour. So there's the rotation of the Earth, and it imparts that energy to that system. Of course, it's what we call Coriolis force, that apparent kind of force of rotating Earth. And it sort of spins around. And so if you're near the equator, the Coriolis is zero, or very low. If you're at the poles, it's much higher. So you need this kind of rotation